The air was frigid, a bone-chilling cold that only the far reaches of the Arctic could deliver. On March 29, 2025, J.D. Vance, Vice President of the United States, set foot on Greenland, a remote land shrouded in ice, snow, and geopolitical mysteries that few had paid much attention to before. But today, he wasn't here just to take in the scenery. He'd come to tell a story, a tale of power, security, and an America that would no longer settle for being the world's piggy bank. Behind him stood soldiers, airmen, and guardians, rigid against the biting wind, their gazes unwavering. Before him loomed a monumental mission: to convince not just the people of Greenland, but the entire world that the United States would steer this land toward a safer, more prosperous future. J.D. Vance stood there, his breath mingling with the icy air, forming fragile wisps of white vapor. He kicked things off with a gentle jab. "I heard you folks love speeches, so I've got about 90 minutes of remarks ready to go." Laughter rippled through the crowd, cutting through some of the tension hanging over a workday at the edge of the earth. But behind that smile, he knew the weight of his duty. He thanked them, the warriors, the pilots, who'd welcomed him warmly to a very, very cold place. It wasn't just polite gratitude. It was a heartfelt acknowledgement from a man who'd once grasped the sacrifices soldiers make, who'd witnessed firsthand what this nation demands of them. He brought up President Trump, who'd sent a message: "He's proud of you, thinks about you." Then he drove the point home: "The mission you're carrying out is vital to the United States, to our national security." Vance wasn't just speaking to the troops in front of him, he was addressing all of America, its allies and its rivals, listening from afar. Greenland wasn't merely a frozen patch of earth. It was a strategic chessboard where the future of U.S. security was being shaped. Among the crowd, he spotted faces from Texas, from Florida, folks who'd traded warm sunlight for this frigid outpost, where the harsh mission tested not just their bodies but their grit. "You've really signed up for a tough gig," he said, "but this is a beautiful place." His words rang out like a declaration. Despite its harshness, Greenland held undeniable worth, and these soldiers were living proof of America's commitment. As he walked through the base, guided by the colonel on a tour, Vance couldn't help but marvel at the beauty of this land. Striking landscapes, harsh yet captivating. He felt the heartbeat of America pulsing here, amid the ice, snow, and bitter wind. But he also knew that to keep that heartbeat alive, the United States needed to act more boldly than ever before. After his opening speech, Vance shifted to the weightier part: dialogues with the press and introductions of the key figures by his side. He called out Juliet, wife of the National Security Advisor, and Usha, the Second Lady, who stood beside him like a symbol of family and national unity. He also introduced the Secretary of Energy, the National Security Advisor, and Mike Lee from Utah. A man, he jokingly said, had thought he'd end up in Utah but landed in Greenland instead. Laughter rang out again, but beneath it lay the gravity of a high-level delegation carrying a mission too serious to take lightly. Vance entrusted each of them with the task of highlighting Greenland's importance. The Secretary of Energy stepped forward, his voice low but brimming with conviction. "Thank you for your service to our country," he said. "At this beautiful airbase in the high Arctic, we see what energy can do. We can turn a harsh environment into a beautiful place to live." He stressed that energy wasn't just a technical matter, it was a tool to monitor the world, to safeguard national security. President Trump was elected to re-energize America, he said, to turn the beauty you see here into something to be proud of and ambitious about once again. The Secretary's words served as a reminder that Greenland wasn't just a military outpost, it was a symbol of the technological and economic strength the United States aimed to assert. But would this really yield results? And as Vance stood there listening, did he see that investing in energy in Greenland could be a two-for-one shot, bolstering national security while opening up new economic opportunities? If it succeeded, it would hand America a leading edge in the Arctic, a region Russia and China were eyeing hungrily. But if it failed, if resources were squandered or misdeployed, would the United States lose its chance to shape this region, leaving a gap for rivals to fill? Next up was Mike Lee, who carried his story all the way from Utah to Greenland. He looked around, his gaze settling on the youthful faces of the warriors. "I reckon when we flew in it looked a bit like Utah in winter," he joked. But then his voice turned solemn. "You're deployed here for a year without family, without a wife or husband, without kids. Female. That stands as a symbol of the many sacrifices so many of our military folks have made." He spoke with the sincerity of someone who'd seen loss up close. He reminded the crowd that their work here wasn't just a physical presence. It was part of a long-standing tradition, the U.S. military's foothold in Greenland since World War II. "What you're doing here keeps us safer," he said. "While we're handling our daily grind back home, we don't have to worry about the things you're worrying about because you're doing it for us." These words struck a chord in Vance's heart. He knew damn well these soldiers weren't just protecting America. They were guarding President Trump's dream of a nation so strong it wouldn't take a backseat to anyone. But as he listened, didn't you wonder, would this sacrifice get the payback it deserved? If Vance and Trump pulled it off, turning Greenland into a rock-howled American outpost, it'd shore up national security, shield Arctic shipping lanes and resources from the greedy eyes of Russia and China. But if they didn't, if Denmark kept sitting on its hands and the U.S. couldn't invest enough, those sacrifices might turn meaningless, leaving America more exposed than ever to threats from the north. When Mike Lee wrapped up, Vance stepped forward once more, his voice low but brimming with resolve. "I reckon a lot of Americans wonder why Greenland matters so damn much," he began. "I learned a hell of a lot about that today. If, God forbid, a missile got fired at the U.S. from an enemy, it's the folks right here who'd sound the alarm so we could shoot it down and brace ourselves." He painted a vivid picture of Greenland's role, an outpost too crucial to America's security web to ignore. "We know Russia and China are eyeballing the shipping lanes up here in the Arctic, the naval routes and the minerals too," he said. "We've got to make damn sure the United States leads the charge in the Arctic, 'cause if we don't, other nations will fill that gap." This was the climax of the story Vance wanted to tell, a tale of an America done with sitting back, no longer letting allies like Denmark slack off on their duties. He didn't hold back, slamming Denmark. This region's less safe than it was 30, 40 years ago, because some of our allies haven't kept up. Denmark hasn't put in the resources needed to keep this base, our troops, and Greenland's people secure. His critique cut sharp as the Greenland wind, but it raised a hell of a question. Could Vance convince the world that the U.S. was Greenland's only real fix? If he pulled it off, if he and Trump could turn Greenland into part of America's security umbrella, it wouldn't just protect the homeland, it'd send a loud-ass message to Russia and China. The Arctic ain't your playground. But if he flopped, if Denmark and other allies didn't step up, or if the U.S. couldn't pony up enough, this land could slip into enemy hands, gutting America's strategic edge, something fierce. After his speech, Vance faced the press. Sharp questions, sometimes hostile, but he didn't flinch. One reporter fired off, "Any plans to expand the U.S. military presence beyond this base?" Vance shot back, "No, but we're gonna pump in more resources. Icebreakers, naval ships, to beef up our presence in Greenland. It's gotta happen, because Russia and China are spreading their security footprint." Another question came. "The president said we've got to have Greenland. Does being here today signal that the U.S. is dead serious about owning it?" Vance cracked a slight smile. "The president said we've got to have Greenland, and I think we've got to get damn serious about its security. We respect the self-determination of Greenland's people, but I reckon they'd fare better under America's security umbrella than Denmark's." The back and forth rolled on with questions about the economy, tariffs, threats from China and Russia. Vance tackled each one with the steady confidence of a man who knew exactly what he stood for. He drove home the point that the U.S. didn't want to exploit Greenland like China did. It wanted to protect it, a difference he hoped the folks in Greenland would clock. As the day drew to a close, J.D. Vance stood amid the ice and snow of Greenland, gazing at the young soldiers before him. "Thank you," he said, his voice catching with emotion. "It's incredible to be a vice president who's served, to see that there are still young Americans ready to put on the uniform and serve this country." Vance's story in Greenland wasn't just about a visit. It was about a bigger vision for America under Donald Trump's lead. If it worked, his efforts would shore up national security, protect Arctic shipping lanes and resources, and reaffirm the United States' top dog status on the global stage. For the people of Greenland, it could bring the safety and economic chances Denmark hadn't delivered. For allies like Denmark, it was a warning to step up or lose their sway. For Russia and China, it was a declaration that the US wouldn't back down. But if it flopped, if Vance couldn't get Greenland on board, if the US didn't invest enough, or if allies didn't wake up, the fallout would be brutal. The Arctic could turn into a playground for Russia and China, weakening US security, leaving Greenland's folks vulnerable to exploitation, and eroding Trump's goal of a strong independent America. The sacrifices of the warriors here might end up meaningless, and the dream of an America on top could vanish in the frigid Greenland wind. So what do you think about this, if you're an American citizen, or maybe you're one of the peaceful, friendly folks of Greenland? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, let us know where you're from, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel to catch more of J.D. Vance's gripping, challenging journeys and the epic stories of America.